Welcome to today's episode of Magazika. We are thrilled to have a truly remarkable guest with us, Ardra Shephard. Ardra is a writer, consultant, podcaster, and speaker whose award-winning blog, Tripping on Air, has earned international acclaim. With a powerful voice in the chronic illness community, she has been featured in major outlets like Fashion, InStyle, and WebMD. Audrey is also a creator and host of AMI TV's Fashion Days, a groundbreaking lifestyle series that celebrates fashion and makeover transformations for people with special abilities. But her work doesn't stop there. She is also a regular columnist for BZMS and is preparing release her memoir, Fallosophy, My Trip Through Life with MS in March 2025. Very exciting time for us. Very exciting time for Audra. So, Ardra, welcome to Magazika.
Thank you so much for having me. I am excited to be here.
Okay. So let's start with the starting. In your blog and in your various articles, you have mentioned that you were first diagnosed with MS at the age of 23.
That's right.
And how did it change your perspective? Because the life before that and the life after that obviously is not the same. So what changed of your perspective of life at such a young age?
Everything changed. It sort of feels like it was like a defining before and after kind of moment for me at 23. It's a time when you think you don't really know how your life is going to unfold and everything seems possible. And that diagnosis for me changed everything in ways that I anticipated and in ways that I didn't anticipate. It was a really kind of traumatic time, that's for sure.
Yeah. And what was your initial reaction of learning whenever you first learned about your condition? Were there any misconceptions around you, fears around you, or that stand out in the hindsight?
I didn't know anything about MS, so it seemed kind of like the worst possible thing that could happen to me. I knew it was bad. My presenting symptom was vision loss. I kind of went blind overnight, and I also had difficulty walking. But even with such serious symptoms, I didn't really think something was seriously wrong with me. I thought I maybe needed some antibiotics. So I really was absolutely shocked by such a serious diagnosis. It really did a number on me at that time in my life, for sure. But that said, I've learned so many things, over the 20 plus years since that diagnosis. When you get something that difficult and that devastating, you can maybe think your life is like your best days are behind you. And I have learned that that's absolutely not true. I like to say that a difficult life doesn't have to be a joyless life. And that was a surprise to me after getting a diagnosis like MS at such a young age.
I truly understand. Whenever my son first was diagnosed with ASD, it was the same reaction for we had no idea what we are dealing with. Best days are gone. So all these things.
Yeah.
Can you share how? Let's start after the initial findings and then what unfolded gradually. So how the societal stigma impacted your personal and professional life in the early years of MS?
Stigma was something that I was totally unprepared for. I very naively didn't expect that people would treat me differently at all. And so I did learn that fairly quickly. And it was just kind of another shock and another insult to an already difficult situation. I mean, I did have a lot of support from coworkers, from family, from friends, from loved ones. But I had a handful of experiences that were not supportive, that were filled with stigma and misconceptions. And, it only takes being left out of something or passed over for something else for you to start to want to be less open and more closed off and more protective of that personal information. So, you know, here we are more than 20 years later, and I have a very public presence, like openly MS that I mean, I had that in the beginning, but then I pulled away from that. You know, it's been a long journey to sort of claim my own narrative and tell my own story, if that makes sense. There were
Absolutely.
years when I had started to be secretive about my condition because it had cost me some things for sure. And it's I realize now that the only way to kind of crush that stigma is to actually be open about it. And yeah,
Um, so that was another, you just touched the next question that it was my question that in your blogs and some of your writings, our research team said, and I also read that you were pretty secretive about the medications, about the processes that you are going through. How did you eventually find the confidence to embrace your condition publicly and through your blog? And then at certain point, you started the blog, very popular
yeah.
one, and very nice one, Tripping on Air. What was the what was the fire? What was the spark that made you light up the way ahead?
I really think it was, you know, we haven't really talked about what multiple sclerosis is, but it's very common in Canada. It is the most disabling disease of young people. So typically, people are diagnosed between the ages of 20 and 40. You can be diagnosed earlier, you can be diagnosed later, but that's sort of in that prime of life stage when most people are diagnosed. It
Oh,
is a neurological condition. I like to say that what can go wrong might go wrong. It really can affect vision, mobility, sensory, pain, cognition. Like it looks different in a lot of people or in most people. Like there are no two cases that are exactly the same, but
yeah.
there are a lot of symptoms that overlap, fatigue for sure being one. But it's also what is can be known as an invisible illness or a so-called non-apparent illness. So
Oh,
but it's also a progressive illness. So for a long time, I was like, quote unquote, passing as non-disabled because I could hide my symptoms and in a lot of cases it made sense after I had experienced those episodes of stigma or whatever else. Then about 10 years ago, my symptoms became started to become more apparent. So my foot was dragging, you know, people that I knew started to say like, what's wrong with your leg? Why are you walking like that? And then I started to need a cane and now I'm using a walker. And the blog really started at a time when my illness was becoming less invisible, more apparent, and I was getting asked questions. And I didn't like the questions. And it wasn't just from people that I knew, it was from strangers. You know, every Uber that I got out of was like, what happened to you? What's wrong with you? And the question being asked what's wrong with you by someone who doesn't even know you is an incredibly demoralizing experience to think that somebody's first impression of you is that something's wrong. You know, what's wrong with you? And being defined by that, I really
yeah.
took exception to that. And so starting the blog for me, at least initially, was a way of asserting how I still saw myself as not damaged goods, as, you know, having this thing that I live with and that I have to adapt and adjust to. And it is difficult, but, you know, it's not that I am broken, if that makes sense. I needed to just assert my own narrative. Don't pity me, strangers that see me on
Yeah.
the street. I have a great
Yes.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In one of the, I was going through one of your interviews, and you were saying that in one time you were asked that you can't use the restroom in one of the Timmys.
The Tim Hortons. Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, why? How? No, that's not correct. That's not
I
okay. So
know.
so these And then you started tripping on air because, and it took a lot of courage, I guess. A lot
Thank
of
you.
courage. A lot of courage.
So I think one of the first posts that I wrote in 2015 was called Honey, I Peed the Bed. And I was talking
Oh, yeah.
about my experience with bladder incontinence, which is like very personal, very taboo subject, of course. But I thought, what is it that I needed to learn and what did I need to read about that I wasn't finding when I was diagnosed with MS? And if I was going to write about this experience, I needed to prove to myself that I could tell the honest truth of the experience, that I could write what I wasn't finding, what wasn't already out there, because I wanted to help other people. And so yeah, that was really motivating for me to just know that I was creating the kind of information and content that I needed to consume. And I knew it could help other people, but also help me feel less lonely in relating to, if you're going through something, there's no way there isn't somebody else that's going through the same thing. And there's a
Mm.
profound sense of comfort in knowing that.
Yeah, for sure. One of the one of the lines just popped into my mind whenever I was listening to you, that self-respect is not always about respecting yourself. Sometimes it is also understanding your worth along with all your limitations.
Yeah, I think whenever the way we look at illness culturally in North
Yeah.
America as something to overcome, and
Yeah.
we don't talk enough about adapting to
Yeah.
it. We sort of see that adapting and accepting as failure. And we use this warrior language in terms of fighting our
Fighting.
illness,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, who am I fighting? Like myself? Like, I don't want to be in conflict
It's
fighting
part of
all
me
the
now.
time. Yeah. And I really feel like one of the bravest, strongest things we can do is adapt and figure out how to live with this. And I mean, it's practical, right? Otherwise, this fighter mentality is what can set us up for resisting using things, tools like mobility aids, right? And then you fall and you break something. And for some reason, culturally, we have assigned a value to that kind of resistance.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's healthy. It hasn't been
No.
healthy for me, that's for sure.
Yeah. It is not about always having a fight or flight response. No.
Yeah.
And even I usually tell the people I work with my son, I always tell them, even if you're working in a warrior mode, be a peaceful warrior.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that not fighting doesn't mean that you don't do the things that you can control to have the
Yes.
best possible outcome, right?
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
can do my physio and take my medication and all of these things that will set me up for the best possible success. I don't have to frame them as battling and fighting, right?
Mm, understandable. Easily understandable.
Yeah.
Now, coming back to your next, another leaf of success in your crown, philosophy. So, what with your upcoming memoir, philosophy,
Yeah.
is a blend of your personal stories and your reflections. For the readers, for the viewers, what inspired you to write it? Already they have some ideas, but and what do you hope readers will take away from it?
I am so excited about this book coming out, Fallosophy,
We are
my
too. We are
memoir.
too.
It's thank you. Thank you so much. It's very much in the style of the blog. The blog starts kind of 10 years ago. The book starts at the beginning of my diagnosis. So it fills in a lot of the blanks of how I got to this point, what I've been through. And I think it's funny. I hope that people will connect with it just in terms of like what it's like living in a body in general, right? Like I think you don't have to have MS to necessarily get it. We all go through stuff, and it's about adapting and how we cope, if that makes
Mm,
sense.
yes. It's such an what can I call it? It's such an evocative play on words, philosophy. Can you explain its deeper meaning a bit?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that it relates a little bit to the book Tripping on Air, which is like my life with MS.
That is
Is a
also a
bit of,
beautiful name, by the
yeah,
way.
thank you. It's a bit of a play on the experience, right? Of having a gait that makes me fall sometimes for no reason. And philosophy is, I guess, a collection of my worldview, my philosophies, and like a lot of that is informed by falling, like literally and figuratively.
And I'm a big fan of Stoic philosophy. So Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, I read them a lot. Meditations is almost my bedside table. So whenever I first heard of your name of the book, I said, "Wow, wow,
Thank
that's a
you.
that's such a beautiful name." So regarding, let's go to let's go to the some of the core essences of your blog, Tripping on the Air, and on your next upcoming book, Philosophy. Let's talk about overcoming challenges. So,
Yeah.
how do you self like catheterize, like self
Yeah.
catheterize, and how you turned into a how you build that resilience inside you? What is your mechanism?
Yeah. I don't ever think of myself as overcoming anything. I think that's almost a dangerous word. Again, it's about
Fantastic.
adapting and
Fantastic.
adjusting, right?
Okay.
So I think a lot of people in the MS community, in the general community, whatever, even in the medical community, would think that to have to self-catheterize in order to empty my bladder sounds like a horrifying, scary, terrible, awful thing. It's certainly what I thought before it was introduced to me, but I learned quickly that it was a solution to a massive problem, and that it doesn't hurt and it doesn't need to be so stigmatized. It's like, to me, that's like a tool that helps me just get on with it, get on with my life. It was actually really freeing. And I think, that's kind of language that we use around wheelchair use also, right? Confined to a wheelchair when it's actually the opposite. That's true. A wheelchair is a tool that helps you get around the world, just like eyeglasses are a tool that helps you see. They don't, you know, you're not confined to seeing things through lenses, if that makes sense.
Absolutely makes sense. Um, kind of some of your like personally what you do in a day-to-day life. Let's start with the external things. How is there any role of journaling or maintaining a diary throughout your life help shaping this book?
Yeah, I think you can see actually a lot of my diaries behind me.
Yes, yes,
I
yes, I
don't
can
think
see that.
I
I can see that.
I
I can
don't
see
think
that.
I would have been able to write this book if I hadn't kept a diary. It's amazing what our memories do to us, how they warp and change. So I've always kept a diary my whole life, just not even ever thinking that I would someday write a book. Just it's therapeutic for me. It helps me understand myself and my life, helps me to remember things. I'm, attached to the experiences that I've had, and um, want to relive the good ones for sure, traveling, that kind of thing. But a journaling practice has been key for me, I think, in knowing myself. But it's also, I'm thankful to my younger self for having done it. There's, and the book Philosophy spans 20 years. And so to
Oh
hear
wow.
my
Wow.
own voice, right, at 23, it's a different voice than now in my 40s, right? So it helped me write in that voice, just seeing my own 23-year-old kind of obnoxious self in that diary.
And you can also see your evolution over the
For
years,
sure.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like getting through really tough times and reminding yourself, like, holy smokes, I did that, gives you the courage to know, like, okay, I can probably get through the next thing that's coming. Like all those things accumulate. and you start to see the pattern of like, I survived this. I can survive what's coming next.
What's coming next? Absolutely. Now, how much do you think, the last point in overcoming challenges, how much do you think that the support system, social or specifically family support system, you have talked sometimes about your mother.
Yeah.
So, so how does that work out? And your the help of your mother, assistance of your mother, and the warmth
Yeah.
that you have received from your family, how important it is.
I almost feel like this book is a love letter to everyone that's in my life that has supported me. So both my parents, my husband, my best friends, um, my dog. Like I think that,
Oh, definitely. They're very
yeah,
important part.
really, really important. And, MS can be a very lonely disease. It can be very isolating. And I think that as important as any pharmaceutical therapy, as any medication, is to cultivate the relationships in your life that, I mean, it's everything. It's so, so important to have a team, and that includes other people who get it. So, other people with MS in my case, but also my family, my friends, my dogs. I think that's just, it is critical to getting through life in general. Work on your relationships. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And regarding at the beginning of the interview, whenever you said that, oh, you might hear the dogs barking at the background and everything. Just to let you know, I'm from, obviously I'm the country I'm from, you know that. So in my practically my in my one of the Eastern religious practices, they have many gods and goddesses. So one of the biggest gods, the main companion is dog, because historically speaking, dog have chosen themselves that they will be with human.
Yeah.
They're our biggest emotional support because they're the descendant of wolf. Wolf never be with the humankind, but they have chosen that no, we will be with them to support them in various needs and everything. So yeah, my son is one of the biggest dog lovers in the world. So we are getting one from him. We are just
Yeah. Oh.
choosing the breed that what is mostly suited for him. Yeah, we are basically within next 2 3 months we'll be getting that. So I love dog.
Congratulations. I
Yeah.
will recommend the Golden Doodle if you're looking for
Oh, I'm writing it
recommendations.
down. I'm
Like
writing it down. Golden Doodle. Yeah. I've
she,
heard of it, but I have never
yeah,
seen it.
I mean, she makes every day better, and she's a real cuddler and snuggler,
Yeah, we
and
are
yeah.
making a corner at our house for him, for the newcomer in the family.
Well,
So
congratulations. That's exciting.
yes, we are buying beds and all that. So yeah, all these support system make you. So
Yeah.
definitely readers already know, we already know that you have a busy life and you have your personal life with all the things you have in your personal life and professional life. How do you balance these two?
I don't, like I think
Wow.
who does? And like many, many days, I don't feel that busy. I mean, I busy in general, but I do have to sometimes just not. I have to sleep when I have to. I have to rest when I
Mm.
have to. And I think externally it can seem like I am very busy because I have kind of a public life. But I think it's hard to see how much downtime I actually need in a day. And I have to be really protective of that. But I think most people with MS don't have as many available hours in the day. And, we make the most of them when we can. But I think it's also really important for me to just give myself grace when, I just needs to be a day where I stay in my pajamas and read a book.
The reason I'm asking this, sometimes we work with corporate clients and sometimes I'm from HR background. So sometimes whenever we meet corporate people, they say that, oh, we don't have any time. So
Mm.
sometimes I tell them that you need some busy, productive time as well as you need some downtime for yourself.
Yeah.
Non-busy hours.
100%. I think we make time for the things that are important to us, and I think that that can be hard to reconcile for a lot of people who maybe work too much, who maybe don't put enough time in with their friends or their family or their hobbies. I read Martin Short's memoir years ago. I really liked it because he broke his life down into like 8 categories and he
Yeah.
gave himself a score, and he would be like, okay, work's not going that great right now. Can I be better at friendship or can I be better at exercise or all these kinds of things? So
Oh,
I
wow.
think there are times for me when I have a lot of work going on
Mhm.
and other things suffer. I'm maybe not, it's hard. I'm not doing enough physio or I'm not eating as well as I should be. And I have to recognize that those are choices that I've made because at the time, like what feels the most valuable to me is the work that I'm doing. And I am lucky enough to have work that I love to do, you
Oh,
know?
yeah.
Yeah. But there is often a cost to something, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, there's not enough energy in an MS body, probably in any human body, to get
Mhm.
all the things done that we want in a day. We have to make those choices. And I think those choices can be different every day, also.
Just the things that you said. One of the things that our business professor used to say, so it was a very common question in our entrepreneur class. It was in UFT. It was in a very big gallery, and so it was a question that, oh, how to build a very successful business. So we all thought that, oh, professor will say that very genuine product, very revolutionary product, or very new idea of technology and everything. No, professor just smiled and said that, you know what? You will make money when you solve people's problem.
Yeah. That's
And
so interesting too, because I also feel like culturally we measure success
yeah,
based on money. And I think we don't think enough about, like, of course, when you solve somebody's problem, that is a practical solution that will net you
yeah,
some money. But
yes,
we don't think culturally enough about like, am I successful because I'm helping other people, just in
yeah,
general, right? Like, what does a successful life look like?
yeah,
And it's kind of a me-centered culture where we're not really
yes,
thinking, what am I giving back?
yeah. And that is what you are doing through your
Well,
blog, through your book, through your speeches, fashion days, everything.
thank you. I mean, I feel a little bit, I don't know, awkward in accepting that compliment because it's so healing for me. It doesn't feel as much of giving back as much as like this is really helping me figure this out and come to terms with it.
But your credit, okay, I'm not saying that way, but that courage, that resilience is inspiring for so many people and
Thank you.
for so many families, I should say.
Thank you. It's
Yeah,
really
and
kind of you.
no, no, it is what it is. So, and the and through this work, you are saying that you were diagnosed with, like, it's almost a 15 to 8 years. You are journaling, you are speaking, you are working with the communities, you are going to people to talk about it. What is the change that what is the pulse in people's understanding of chronic illness, specifically MS, have changed? You are feeling that in the last 20 years it happened. What is the change you are experiencing?
I think the most change I've noticed is really in like the last 5 years. I think that social media has done a lot
Oh,
to
yeah,
change
fantastic.
who
Fantastic.
tells stories
Yeah.
and who the gatekeepers of that are. And I've noticed a difference in communication from doctors, from pharmaceutical companies, like
Mm.
really involving patients in their own care is something that still feels relatively new. And so it's exciting to see that and to be a part of it. It's exciting to see, when I started posting pictures of myself with mobility aids on social media. I was hashtagging them babes with mobility aids just to try and get um, something out there because I was looking for role models of people to inspire me, like somebody that was young and using mobility aids. I couldn't find them. They're like, it was nowhere. It was ghost town. And now I'm so not unique in that. It's like all over social media. And that's, I mean, social media super gets a bad rap, but this is something that's really positive and is really giving voice and normalizing this experience.
Mm. And working with you are I think I read somewhere, correct me if I'm wrong, you are working with also pharmaceutical companies as an advisor?
I have consulted with a number of pharmaceutical companies, yeah, on patient advisory boards, and it feels really great to have a voice in these rooms. Yeah, these are
Okay.
powerful organizations
Mm.
that can, I like to say that um, I have to be patient about how fast science moves in terms of fixing MS, but there are things that we can do immediately, right now, to
Okay.
improve the lives of people with MS and other chronic illnesses, and they don't cost anything, It's just about inclusion and getting rid of stigma and messaging, these kinds of things.
That's great to know. That's great to know. So far, I checked the statistics before this interview. Canada has the highest, I think, per capita incidence of MS. I
Yes.
think. So,
Yeah.
how does that fact shape awareness and resources available for people with MS? Because you know the turf better than any of
Yeah.
us.
Well, I am fortunate to be a member of the Barlow MS Center in
Mm,
Toronto here at St. Michael's Hospital,
mm,
which has almost, I think, 11,000 patients. It is a world leading facility. It's a beautiful facility, but we've also got a top-notch team of research scientists there that are really on the cutting edge of what's happening in multiple sclerosis. Yeah, congratulations to, because it's great to be in Toronto and to be at Barlow, but the work that they're doing is going to impact the MS community globally. So I feel proud to be a part of that organization and fortunate to be a patient there. We have with almost 11,000 patients there, Toronto is such a diverse city that, the research that is available to us based on the data of such a diverse population is also really one of the strengths
yeah,
of the center.
that's enlightening. That's enlightening. I had no idea such an institution with such a huge task is going on in Toronto. Someday we would be honored to get in touch with them to highlight whatever they're doing for the community, because that's what we do, Magazika, because we bring out what of the services, what are the Canadian medical communities doing for the Canadian citizens, because there are so many people who are working silently,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we want to bring them to the spotlights.
Well,
So,
I'll give you some names after the interview. I'm sure they would be delated to come on and
oh,
talk
we
about
would
what's
be
happening
honored. We
there.
would be
Yeah.
honored. We would be honored. We would be honored. And now, if if anyone, because 20 years is a long time,
Yeah.
you are writing a book on your memoirs and everything. But if anybody asks you deep down in your very silent moments, in the core of your resilience, what are the lessons? What are the life lessons you want to give to others?
Mm. I think it's joy. I think it's really knowing that,
Mhm.
again, a difficult life doesn't have to be a joyless life, and seeking out those joyful experiences and not denying that to yourself. Um, Yeah, I mean, nobody gets out of this life alive, right? We have to make a better world for ourselves and for each other and our children. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's like so hard to kind of sum it up into a lesson, but I think joy is really important. I think it's available to all of us. I think giving people the benefit of the doubt, everybody's going through something, whether you know what it is or not. Yeah, I don't know.
Let's talk briefly about about the future activities you are going to do. How do you see the future of tripping on air?
Oh gosh, that's, on the heels of writing a book, it's like, what do I write next? I don't know. I think there's definitely room to see um stories of disabled bodies evolve. I would love to see that in television and movies, and we're heading in that direction. Um, I
Yeah.
would love to work in more
Fault
writers'
in Our
rooms.
Stars. Fault in Our Stars is kind of that.
Yeah,
There's
I mean, I
there's
think that maybe kind of first generation of
first
stories
generation. Yes.
also some of them are problematic. Some of them
Yeah.
are do have some tropes. And so more authentic storytelling where people with disabilities are in the room and part of those conversations. I'd
Mm.
love to be a part of that. But I think really like for this year, especially, I'm focused on talking about the book and just meeting people. And yeah, I don't know what's going to happen next. When I started the blog Tripping on Air, I didn't know how it would resonate. And I told
Oh,
myself,
what a fascinating one.
I'm just gonna like focus on telling the truth and
Mm.
and making something that feels like quality and good and real. And then the opportunities, I don't know what they are, but they will come. And that's kind of how I feel now also.
And I'm sure all of these will inspire people a lot. So that is the blog. After philosophy, what?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And I think that's exciting, a little bit scary, but I'm not rushing to find out what
Okay.
that is. I think one thing I've also learned having MS is that there have been times in my life when, and to use a book pun here, like just feeling like I didn't think I had a next chapter, and then being surprised to discover that I did. So, yeah, we'll see what happens next. I don't know.
Give yourself some time, and after, deal with the publication, talk
Yeah.
about the books, talk about to more larger audiences. As we are talking now, you're talking to the readers of Magazika. So let's talk about it now, and the experiences you have, the introspections you have. I'm sure there will be many books ahead.
Oh gosh, thank you. Yeah, I think that's probably like
Oh,
the angst of any writer, right? Is like, what next?
okay,
Get out that blank page.
so that is the blog, that is the book. As a person, our last question is, as a person, what's next for Ardra Shepherd? What exciting plans or projects you see on the horizon?
I I mean, I love travel, so I
Oh,
think
me
I'm
too.
excited to like travel and talk about the book. One of my favorite roles in life really is as an aunt. And so
Oh,
I've got nieces and nephews from the ages of 6 to 21, I want to say now. So spending time with them at these like precious years is a goal of mine also.
they're
And then
lucky to
just
have you as a role model.
Oh, thank you. It's really cool to see these kids kind of grow up with me in their life as somebody who's disabled, and it's like they're not weird about it. It's really cool to feel that and to be that example for them. So I'm 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 encouraged by the next generation growing up with less ableist ideas.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Children are more accepting, no?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
We
I
have
mean, and
all
then we
those.
like mess them up with all our
Yes.
stories and
Yeah, true.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. They came into this world with this such pristine, good heart and all, and we
Yeah.
meddle up with it. We adulterate it.
So one of my favorite stories about my nephew, I think he was probably about 10,
Okay.
and I could hear him in the next room talking to my husband. And
Okay.
he said, Uncle Carrie, what's it like to be married to someone? And I thought, here we go,
Here we
right?
go.
Here we go. And but what he said actually was, what's it like to be married to someone who's famous? And
Oh,
I was just like, I thought he was gonna say disabled or like
no,
and I was like, it was amazing. I'm like not famous, but it was just
no,
like
you
his like
are.
awe and admiration of his
Yes.
aunt for me was just like, that's what he saw, that I'm like doing cool stuff, and that
The
meant so
focus,
much to
the
me.
focus
Yeah.
was on your like activity, and you were
Yes.
talking to people, writing blogs. It was on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, on the cool stuff,
on the
not my weird walk.
yeah,
Yeah.
in their generation, cool stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, right? Like you're on YouTube? Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh, now they will see that you are on YouTube on some magazine's channel,
That's right.
and yeah. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. I know it's a very busy time for you. Thank you sharing your beautiful thoughts. I am
Oh,
enriched. I think our readers will be also enriched by reading or hearing this interview. Thank you very much.
you're very generous. Thank you so much. It was a real pleasure to chat with you.
Thank you. Thank you.